Most women think men test you with words, questions, or arguments. That's not true. The most important tests happen in silence, in pauses, in what he does not explain. He watches how you react when plans change, when messages slow down, when attention shifts. He is not confused. He is observing. Every reaction you give is data. Every emotional outburst, every over-explanation, every attempt to chase clarity quietly answers a question he never asked out loud. And most women fail without realizing a test was even happening. This is not about games. This is about instinct. A man wants to know if your confidence is real or borrowed from his behavior. He wants to see whether you stand firm or collapse under uncertainty. When you panic, you teach him how little it takes to shake you. When you overgive, you show him you will negotiate your value. When you stay centered, you change the power dynamic instantly. Right now, think about the last time you felt unsettled by a man's silence. What you did next told him everything. If you understood what he was measuring in that moment, you would never react the same way again. Because the real test, men rarely announce what they are testing. They don't sit you down and say, I'm about to see how secure you really are. Instead, they create moments of uncertainty, moments of silence, moments where your expectations are interrupted. And in those moments, they lean back and watch. Not because they want to hurt you, but because instinctively, a man needs to know what kind of emotional environment he is stepping into. He is asking himself one core question: is this woman steady, or is her sense of self dependent on my behavior? This is where many women misunderstand the situation. They assume confusion means lack of interest. Assume distance means rejection. They assume silence means something is wrong. But often, silence is information gathering. A man is observing how you regulate your emotions when he doesn't regulate them for you. He's watching whether you can stay grounded when the ground shifts slightly. Because life will shift, stress will come, pressure will rise, and if small changes create big reactions, that tells him something important. These tests are not cruel, they are quiet. He might delay a reply. He might change a plan. He might stop initiating for a moment, not to punish you, not to manipulate you, but to see what happens next. Do you spiral internally? Do you send multiple messages to reestablish control? Do you demand reassurance to calm your anxiety? Or do you remain composed, self-directed, and emotionally intact? Here's the hard truth. Your reaction teaches him how much emotional labor he will be responsible for in this relationship. When you panic, you're unintentionally saying, you are in charge of my emotional stability. When you over-explain, you're saying, I need to convince you to stay. When you chase clarity, you're saying, uncertainty weakens me. None of that is attractive to a man who wants a partner, not a responsibility. Many women believe being expressive equals being honest, but emotional leakage is not honesty. It's a lack of regulation. A man doesn't fear feelings. He fears chaos. He fears unpredictability. He fears being blamed for emotions he didn't cause. So when he sees a woman who can feel deeply without reacting impulsively, that registers as strength. That registers as safety. Think about it this way. When a man is silent and you immediately rush to fill the space, you remove the need for him to step forward. You show him that pressure works on you. You show him that with a little distance, you'll abandon your center. That's not a judgment, it's a pattern. And patterns shape how men treat you long term. Men test because they're deciding how much respect to give. Respect is not demanded, it is observed. A woman who respects herself doesn't collapse when attention fluctuates. She doesn't interrogate silence. She doesn't emotionally negotiate her worth. She stays consistent regardless of external behavior. That consistency is rare, and men feel it immediately. This is where awareness changes everything. Once you understand that not every shift requires a response, you stop reacting from fear. You stop taking neutral behavior personally. You stop assuming you are being evaluated negatively. Instead, you realize the evaluation is ongoing and you are always teaching something. Calm teaches confidence. Patience teaches self-worth. Emotional restraint teaches maturity. Men don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with peace. They fall in love with women who make them feel relaxed, not responsible. When a man senses that your happiness doesn't rise and fall based on his attention, something changes in him. He becomes more intentional, more careful, more present, because he knows he's dealing with a woman who won't beg to be chosen. The mistake many women make is trying to pass the test by doing more explaining, more accommodating, more proving. But the real test is about doing less reacting, less chasing, less emotional broadcasting. Passing is not about strategy, it's about self-mastery. It's about being so rooted in your value that silence doesn't scare you. When a man pulls back slightly and you remain steady, you send a powerful message without saying a word. I'm okay either way. That doesn't push him away. It pulls him closer. Because now he knows he cannot control you with uncertainty. And when control is removed, respect takes its place. Understanding this shifts how you see every interaction. You stop seeing tests as threats and start seeing them as opportunities to show who you are, not through words, but through composure, not through explanation, but through presence. And once you grasp that, you realize the test was never about him doubting you. It was about you proving to yourself that you don't lose yourself when things get quiet. When a man creates space, what he is really looking for is not obedience, not submission, and not silence for the sake of silence. He is looking for emotional certainty, not certainty about him, but certainty within you. He wants to know whether your sense of identity stands on its own or collapses when the environment becomes unclear. This is not something he can ask directly because words lie. Behavior never does. At an emotional level, a man is constantly assessing how it feels to be around you when things are not perfect. Anyone can be pleasant when attention is flowing and reassurance is constant. The real question is who you are when reassurance is missing. Do you stay grounded or do you become reactive? Do you stay warm or do you turn cold and punishing? Do you remain respectful or do you become demanding and accusatory? These moments tell him more than months of conversation ever could. Men are deeply wired to protect their sense of freedom. When they feel that emotional stability depends on them showing up in a specific way, pressure builds. Pressure makes men retreat. Not because they don't care, but because they feel trapped in a role they didn't agree to. When a woman remains emotionally steady during uncertainty, it signals that connection with her will feel expansive, not confining. What a man is truly looking for is a woman who can experience emotion without being controlled by it. Someone who can feel disappointment without punishment. Someone who can feel confusion without accusation. Someone who can feel desire without desperation. That level of emotional maturity creates safety. And safety is what makes a man invest. This is where many women unknowingly fail the test. They confuse vulnerability with emotional exposure. Vulnerability is selective and intentional. Emotional exposure is uncontrolled. When a man pulls back and a woman unloads every fear, every insecurity, every worst-case scenario, she may believe she is being open. But what he feels is overwhelmed. He feels like he has just been handed responsibility for emotions he did not create and does not know how to manage. Men are not afraid of strong women. They are afraid of emotional unpredictability. They are afraid of being punished for not performing perfectly. They are afraid of walking on eggshells. When a man senses that small changes in behavior create big emotional reactions, he mentally calculates the long-term cost. That calculation happens quietly. And once it happens, it is very hard to reverse. On the other hand, when a woman stays composed, curious rather than accusatory, and confident rather than fearful, something shifts inside him. He feels respected, not because she tolerates less, but because she expects more from herself. She doesn't need to chase clarity because she trusts her ability to handle any outcome. That trust is magnetic. At a deeper level, men test to see whether you can hold your value without constant validation. Validation-seeking behavior, even when subtle, signals insecurity. Insecurity is not a flaw, but unmanaged insecurity becomes a burden. A man wants to feel chosen, not needed for emotional survival. There is a difference. Being chosen feels powerful. Being needed feels heavy. When you respond to uncertainty with self-assurance, you communicate abundance. You communicate that your life is full, your identity is intact, and your emotional world is not on pause waiting for him. That does not make him feel unimportant. It makes him feel honored to be part of something stable. Another critical thing men are looking for is emotional fairness. When he goes quiet for a day and you punish him with coldness for a week, you teach him that mistakes are costly. When mistakes are costly, men become guarded. Guarded men do not open their hearts. They perform. And performance is not intimacy. Passing this test does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means processing them privately before expressing them thoughtfully. It means understanding that timing matters. A woman who can say, I noticed the shift and I'm curious, instead of, why are you doing this to me, demonstrates emotional leadership. Leadership is attractive because it brings order to uncertainty. Men test to see whether you add calm or chaos to their lives. This is the part most people don't like to hear. Love does not grow in chaos. Desire does not grow in tension. Connection does not grow under emotional pressure. When you bring calm, you become associated with relief. And relief is something men come back to again and again. The truth is, when you understand what men are really looking for during these silent tests, you stop trying to perform. You stop trying to guess. You stop trying to control outcomes. Instead, you focus on being regulated, respectful, and rooted in who you are. That energy answers every question he has without you ever having to ask what he's thinking. Every reaction you give teaches a man how to see you, how to treat you, and how much weight your presence carries in his life. This is not about manipulation. It is about perception. Men read reactions the way engineers read data. They don't always talk about it, but they log it internally. And over time, those reactions form a pattern that either elevates your value or slowly erodes it. When a man notices that emotional pressure makes you bend, he learns that consistency is not required to keep you. When he sees that silence causes you to chase, he learns that effort can be minimal. When uncertainty makes you overextend, he learns that your boundaries are flexible. None of these lessons are conscious choices on his part. They are conclusions formed by repeated observation. And once a conclusion forms, behavior follows. This is where many women unintentionally teach men the wrong lesson. They believe reacting strongly shows how much they care, but what it actually shows is how easily their emotional center can be moved. Men don't value intensity the way women do. They value stability. To a man, emotional control signals self-respect. Lack of it signals risk. There is a crucial difference between expressing a feeling and leaking emotion. Expressing is deliberate, leaking is reactive. When you react in the moment, you hand over your power. You allow his behavior to dictate your state. Over time, that dynamic trains him to lead with less care because he knows you will compensate emotionally. High-value reactions are quiet. They are measured. They are consistent. A woman who responds instead of reacts becomes unpredictable in the best way. Not emotionally volatile, but emotionally unshakable. And that kind of steadiness forces a man to rise. He becomes more attentive, not because he is afraid of losing you, but because he respects the ground you stand on. Men quickly detect when a woman's value is self-generated versus when it is borrowed. Borrowed value depends on attention, reassurance, and external validation. Self-generated value does not. When your mood shifts dramatically based on his availability, you reveal dependence. When your mood remains grounded regardless of his fluctuations, you reveal independence. Independence is not distance, it is solidity. One of the fastest ways value drops is through emotional bargaining. This happens when a woman gives more affection, more access, or more understanding in response to inconsistency. She believes she is stabilizing the connection. What she is actually doing is lowering the cost of inconsistency. Men respect what has a cost. When inconsistency is rewarded, it becomes a habit. Another way value erodes is through overcommunication, explaining your feelings repeatedly, clarifying intentions too soon, or justifying your standards teaches a man that your boundaries are negotiable. Boundaries that need defending repeatedly are not boundaries. They are preferences. A woman who knows her worth does not argue for it. She lives it. On the other side, value rises when a man sees that your standards are calm, not confrontational. You don't punish, you don't beg, you don't threaten, you observe, you adjust. You allow consequences to speak instead of emotions. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. Clarity creates trust. Trust creates attraction. Men are drawn to women whose reactions are aligned with self-respect. When you don't immediately feel silence, he feels it. When you don't overreact to small shifts, he notices. When you don't collapse under uncertainty, it unsettles him in a productive way, because now he cannot predict you by using distance or attention as leverage. A woman who holds her value understands that not every emotion needs an audience. She processes internally, then chooses what to share and when. That restraint is not repression, it is mastery. Men instinctively respect mastery because it mirrors how they handle their own internal world. It's important to understand this is not about being perfect. Men don't expect perfection, they expect consistency. They want to know that the woman they are investing in will not become someone else under pressure. When your reactions remain stable, you become reliable. Reliability builds emotional safety, and safety opens the door to deeper commitment. Every interaction either reinforces your value or questions it. The goal is not to never react. The goal is to react in ways that align with your long-term standards, not short-term relief. Short-term relief comes from chasing, explaining, and confronting. Long-term respect comes from restraint, self-trust, and emotional discipline. When you shift your reactions, you don't need to demand better treatment. Better treatment naturally follows, because now a man understands that access to you is not free, not fragile, and not dependent on his mood. And once he understands that, he either rises to meet you or removes himself. Both outcomes protect your value. Silence is not the enemy. Uncertainty is not a threat. Distance is not automatically rejection. The moment you understand this, you stop reacting from fear and start responding from strength. Silence is a mirror. It reflects how deeply you trust yourself when there is nothing to hold on to but your own grounding. Most people rush to fill silence because it exposes what they haven't healed. But when you can sit in it calmly, you turn what feels uncomfortable into quiet power. A man expects silence to make you anxious, not because he wants you anxious, but because that is what he has seen over and over. When it doesn't work on you, it disrupts his assumptions. He begins to see you as emotionally self-contained. That doesn't push him away. It commands his attention, because now he can't predict you through absence or presence alone. Silence gives you information if you don't rush past it. It shows you who steps forward and who waits for you to carry the connection. It reveals effort without you having to ask for it. When you allow silence to exist, you allow truth to surface. And truth is always more valuable than reassurance. Reframing silence means recognizing it as space, not law. Space allows observation, it allows perspective. It allows you to check in with yourself instead of scanning for signals from someone else. When you stop seeing silence as something you must fix, you stop placing your worth in someone else's hands. There is a deep emotional shift that happens when you stay calm during uncertainty. Your nervous system learns that you are safe even without answers, that safety changes your energy. You speak slower, you move differently, you respond instead of react. Men feel that shift before they understand it. Calm confidence is louder than any explanation. This is not about pretending not to care. It is about caring without self-abandonment. When you no longer chase clarity, clarity comes faster. When you no longer beg for consistency, consistency becomes necessary to keep you. This is not manipulation. This is alignment. You align with your standards instead of negotiating them. Silence also protects you. It keeps you from saying things you can't take back. It keeps you from exposing fears that should be processed privately. It keeps you from shrinking yourself to maintain connection. A woman who honors her own emotional pacing becomes harder to shake and easier to respect. Men move toward what feels grounded. When you respond to silence with stability, you become associated with peace instead of pressure. Peace is addictive. Peace feels like home. A man may not articulate it, but he will seek it, especially in a world that constantly demands and drains him. When you allow silence to exist without filling it, you give him room to choose. Choice creates desire. Pressure destroys it. A man who chooses you freely invests differently than a man who stays because you held on tighter. One feels inspired, the other feels obligated. The strongest position you can take is neutrality, not coldness, not detachment. Neutrality rooted in self-respect. You are open but not waiting, interested but not chasing, present but not performing. That balance is rare, and rarity creates value. As you practice this, something else happens. You stop obsessing over outcomes. You stop trying to control timelines. You stop reading meaning into every pause. Your focus returns to your life, your goals, your emotional health. Ironically, this is when men become more intentional, because now they feel your absence as much as your presence. Silence becomes a test you no longer fear. It becomes a filter. Those who rise stay, those who don't fade. And instead of feeling anxious about that, you feel relief, because you are no longer trying to be chosen. You are choosing alignment, respect, and emotional peace. When you stop fighting silence, it stops working against you. It starts working for you. And in that quiet space, you discover something powerful. You were never waiting on him to show you your worth. You waiting to trust it yourself. The moment you stop reacting is the moment everything changes. Not because he suddenly understands you, but because you finally understand yourself. You realize you were never powerless, just unaware of how much your energy was teaching people how to treat you. When you stay grounded in moments that once shook you, you don't lose connection. You gain authority over your own emotional world. This is where confidence becomes real, not loud, not performative, quiet and unmovable. A man feels that shift immediately. He feels it in how you no longer chase reassurance. He feels it in how you don't bend to confusion. He feels it in how your presence stays steady, whether he steps forward or not. That steadiness is what separates being admired from being valued. When you master your response, you master the dynamic. Silence no longer scares you. Tests no longer control you. Outcomes no longer define you. And from that place, You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to ask where you stand. You don't need to explain who you are, because now your calm speaks louder than your emotions ever did.